are a win condition. It is a team fight winning ultimate, and when you have all three of those up, you can really set yourself up for success when you're already down in a fight. So you might see some different iterations coming out from the maps, maybe a Winston rather than a Reinhardt, a Moira instead of the Zenyatta, depending on sustainability needed for the backline. But 3-3 as a whole, when you have the Discord Orb, 35% extra damage boost for your front line, the sustain from the armor pack, projected barrier from the Zarya, and most importantly, the defense base from D.Va. Even though this is on the live patch and it is on a 2-second cooldown, it's still very important. But as we move over to Well, you'd be silly to pull out a Reinhardt, so we're just going to see that Winston iteration. HSL Esports taking one step further, gonna put Hidan on the Moira.
Indeed, a little bit of a different offer from both of the teams kind of currently coming out of spawn, so we'll take a look to see. No Orisa, no Roadhog, nothing cheeky as far as utilizing that well, at least besides the boosters and the potential boot from FD God and Cave. Now a big brawl happening right near the fence line here as both teams are just kind of positioning. And it will be actually Sap falling first, but Chubb's very low. We'll have to try to back away. Unfortunately, he is able to get far enough away to make Boger chase after him while the rest of the support line for Side Effects has fallen away. A very scrappy fight happening on point. Boger is still trying to make himself find that damage, but again, no support behind him. He will fall away, and HSL will take the first fight.
Side Effects approach the fight in a very hesitant manner. This is what the Winston does very well. Once one member is out of position, instant burst damage from the leap all the way from the Tesla cannon. Pulling out the armor pack early from Side Effects left them open to a whole bunch of damage of A10. Sure, Chubbs went down, but they still won the fight as the reinitiation already happens. Boger jumping in very aggressively.
Tech is actually holding down this D.Va versus D.Va battle very nicely. Boger coming to assist for as much as possible. Self-destruct out first. Tech 36 just boosting away. Self-destruct from Side Effects, not finding anything. Now countered by one of HSL. A lot being used. Coalescence also being thrown to this back alleyway, but it's actually Boger with the support coming out from the sound barrier, able to take down his counterpart of the Winston from Chubb. So now all of a sudden numbers for Side Effects. And what else is here? HSL did hold on to their sound barrier for just a touch longer. A10 also still has a Graviton Surgeon. Can he make a play with this? Will he even make the call to go? He's got the charge. The damage is definitely there. Now all of a sudden, Chubbs is back. He's got a Primal Rage if so needed. And we're seeing a couple of knockaways as well as boopaways from both characters. And now all of a sudden that well, you start hearing those desperate screams of players falling to the dark abyss. And looks like HSL, they will not be able to, or pardon me, they will be able to push away this fight and at least keep retention of the point for now.
It's a good use of the Primal Rage from Chubbs, even though the Graviton Surge wasn't used from HSL Esports. They're still getting a lot of charge out of this point. The leap just to save himself from the depth of the well. HSL Esports still have control of this point, 70% and racking up. The stall is coming through on these speedy characters from the Moira, the Primal Rage from Winston. A10 even was able to make it back into that fight for a particle barrier, so it's back up to a little bit of charge. But with the Graviton Surge and the initiation walk back into the fight, it's potential a last fight team scenario. Side Effects have to play this very well. Kav has to hold on to the sound barrier, especially so that they can stay alive. Side Effects can stay alive into A10's Graviton Surge that they're walking in on, as it's already on the map.
I like that play a lot. Just immediately put it down into the front line. Do what you can to take him down. Boger falls immediately. So now a huge advantage for that of HSL. Again, all they need to do is essentially flip it down once. A nice little boop from FD God to find two. That's exactly what you want to see. He'll clean up a third as well. Go get you some, my friend. And now it just comes down to taking care of the D.Va, who was the last player left to try to stall for as long as possible. In back of the fight comes Boger, but he's by himself completely. And Hidan, he has switched over to the Zenyatta, so that Discord Orb will make him melt pretty quickly. Now it's going to be 80% plus before Side Effects can even consider touching.
FD God pulled Side Effects out of their back end, just wanting to see where they were trying to repurpose the fight and try to get a little bit of a soft regroup. They end up going down into the well, so Side Effects now, with a struggle in this last team fight scenario, have to pull their scraps. Boger's going to have to get a huge dive in here with the Primal Rage. He's going to have to come out early.
Yeah, he uses it initiatingly so, and already actually low again. You talk about the power of that Discord Orb. Cave has to put himself in the sound barriers to keep him alive. It will sustain for now, but Chubbs and Jonah will be traded away. So 5-on-5 action in overtime, 99%, and the point still in retention so far for HSL. Comes down to who can win this fight. Graviton being put down for him, A10, and immediately countered by the Transcendent. So what next? Tech 36 actually able to find the Eat onto Frost. So a big tool out of Side Effects' shed gets completely nullified immediately. So it's just down to Boger. Can you find enough damage to keep your team involved in this team fight? Overtime is lasting for forever, and you keep calling it. It keeps happening. FD God continues to find these boops. A10 with the damage is going to be enough to at least start taking down a few. Self-destruct up in the air, but that's easy to avoid for most of the players, and it will be HSL finding themselves the well point.
HSL Esports have been playing very well around that little cubby area where the mini pack resides, not directly underneath the windmill of well, but adjacent to it. And controlling that space in between the two mega packs that are on each of the team's sides is really how you get it. You pull out the one member so that way the dive comes through from Chubbs, and when they try to get away from said dive, they're just walking into a high charge A10 particle barrier. And that is just a very scary situation for Side Effects to walk into. We are moving over to Ruins, a more Reinhardt heavy map, but HSL Esports are trying to rewrite this book a little bit. They're going to be hovering over top of the solo tank composition. They're going to pull out the pharmacy in the air. Speed boost from FD God just to start out. This is a solo support composition, ladies and gentlemen. Hedon on the Sombra with A10 going to be looking for shots with that Ashe. It's going to be a lot of frontline oppression that Side Effects have to deal with. Frost has a lot of work on his hands. Sob needs to keep his head clear.
Tech actually not able to find the first shot. It's the Ashe of Sob that responds with a little bit of a poison dart of his own. So now it just comes down to, for the Side Effects team, can you find pressure in the backline? Frost will take down A10. That'll help a little bit. And another one from Frost. Absolutely great, taking down both direct damage and a headshot again on FD God. Are you kidding me, Frost? That's absolutely insane. He finds 4 headshots and 4 eliminations. Oh, baby, that's a way to start off Ruins for sure.
That is why Widowmaker has always been played here. It is a tale old as time shift, and why it's so good. There's so many different cross lines, and once you find one, it really puts HSL on the back foot and just leaves them into the sight lines. It's either you get sniped in the face by Frost or you get dove by Metahan and Boger. So now Side Effects have the ultimate advantage and the spatial advantage as well. HSL Esports switching over to this Winston Goats composition with Hedon back onto the Moira.
Frost in a little bit of trouble, will be way in the back line. A beautiful anti-nade from Sob, though, finds at least 4. And Chubbs will actually just barely be able to escape, boosting up the Gorilla of Boger now. And will he hit the Primal Rage immediately after? It's a lot of sustain for the front line of Side Effects. Frost in trouble, though, will be jumped on. And it looks like Boger, his damage going to be enough to keep this point in their favor. It looks like he needs to catch himself the Mega Pack. Doesn't actually touch it, though. He was going towards it, didn't actually back up all the way. Another anti-nade that time in the Brigida of Sardis, and it looks like Side Effects, they'll retain, even with losing their big Pog Camp Frost player.
And this is what's really scary. Side Effects, they roll out on a composition. They just need to replace one piece of their puzzle. HSL go for a full swap into their composition, so now they're really at a disadvantage for ultimate economy. Side Effects only won that fight just barely off of anything whatsoever, just off of heroics from their tank line, and Frost going over to the Zarya now. Jonah will have the EMP ready, so HSL Esports in this last fight scenario for Side Effects to take Ruins, they need to be careful. Good bash to stop Jonah before the EMP.
Able to translocate away, so able to sustain. Hedon will put the coalescence out early. EMP comes down, but it only finds 2. I think he wanted to find Hedon while he was in the coalescence, but not quite able to get their Boger. Also trying to push people around into Primal Rage, but again, where's the damage coming from? Currently, it's just not there yet. The Soundbeer also has to be utilized here, so a very expensive fight for Side Effects as they have not found any eliminations yet. HSL coming back. They use the rally, and Chubbs, he's very low. What a clutch timing from the Sound Barrier from FD God will keep Chubbs alive. He'll immediately be put into the Primal Rage, and HSL in the back end of that late gameplay will be able to swing this tide in their favor right as it hits 99% for Side Effects.
Jonah used the EMP, and Jonah's already at 70% to another EMP. I wonder if Jonah's going to end up swapping. Very interested to see if they go over to another tank or to the Brigitte themselves. Being so close to the EMP, that is a game-winning ultimate within their own self, so they have no defensive ultimate, no sound barrier, no transcendence to stop A10's Graviton Surge that's about to come through. They don't necessarily need follow-up damage because of the lack of defensive ultimate that Side Effects are about to have, but they do have the bigger bang combo. Good hack on the Chubbs early on.
Graviton Surge is there, though. Soaks on a lot of the players from Side Effects and the eliminations, so they're there as well. A10, you can see him above 90 charge throughout that fight. Will take down both frontliners very quickly. It'd be great if they could find one more, but with the defense matrix, then they peel backwards. Looks like Side Effects will be able to get away, only losing 2.
Such composure of HSL Esports, not investing the self-destruct into the Graviton Surge, probably realizing that Side Effects don't have anything to stop them. A10 just lasering everything in existence, just checking for that Sombra. Probably understanding Jonah has another EMP walking in. They charge that so quickly when you're facing 3 tanks. Jonah's just hiding off into the corner. This EMP into Graviton Surge might win the game. They have the self-destruct to back it up.
He finds 4 with it as well. That's going to be big because Tech and Hedon both had their ultimates ready to go. But Boger, he's also in the Primal Rage, trying to keep this backline in the mix as far as the damage that could be possibly put out. Frost, though, will also hit down his Graviton Surge. It's able to find 1, and it looks like that might just be enough as far as Side Effects swapping this point around. Can HSL stay alive for long enough, though, for the respawns? They need to, because, again, the point, it just needs to be flipped once for Side Effects. And look at this, the rally is used for HSL. These 3 players are sustaining, even in the face of bio grenades coming in their face, and all of a sudden HSL, their return to this fight was all 6. So can they come back in? A10 finds Jonah, the sound barrier is utilized for both squads, and HSL still retains the number percentage as far as this team fight as it transgresses. Now it just comes down to, can you find any more eliminations? The point had been flipped, but obviously still in overtime. And it looks like the damage, it's not quite there yet for A10. Just at 20 charge, needs that to go higher. That's a clutch bubble though, as the only person soaked in from Frost's Graviton Surge was Sardis. He will fall, but is that enough elimination to swing this back in Side Effects' favor? Does not look to be so, at least not as of yet. The Coalescence is used just behind HSL as they continue to push forward. A10 with the Graviton Surge. He will soak in a couple, but it's on high ground and nobody could really truly get there. They do lose Sab, but it looks like Side Effects, they're going to come back in with the EMP, and there it is. Yeah, that should be an easy cleanup from here. A10 very low, and it looks like that will be all that's needed as Frost finds himself a triple, looking for the quad, not quite able to get it. Overtime fades, and we're going to a set 3.
That was one of the longest self-destructs I have seen Tech 36 ever build, just because of how much Jonah was farming the D.Va. You need to be careful, HSL Esports. Jonah has consistently been in the backline, not looking for supports, but looking for the D.Va of Tech 36. That is the easiest way to farm. That is what I kept on saying. That is why Jonah is very dangerous. A hit scan player, plays a lot of Zarya, but also, again, that's Sombra. Knows who to farm, and when the D.Va doesn't have defense matrix, that is a big ult battery. Sardis was never around to stop it from happening. It just so happened that A10, walking back into that last fight from the respawn, was able to get the follow-up damage on a Jonah before walking back in and solidifying the win on Ruins off of the EMP. But going over to Lighthouse here, Shift, it's going to be the mirror matchup we have been destined to see between these two teams. Who's going to be the better 3-3 team walking back out? Zen goes across the board as the fight just happens out on Courthouse, or in the courtyard rather. Look for this Reinhardt duel before shield breaks and one team crumble.
You also got to take a look at which Zarya can start glowing brighter faster. That's usually one of the biggest damage sources, unless you have an absolutely nutty Zenyatta. We'll take a look to see if either of those can perform, and you got to also be careful of FD God. Those boops could come into play here. First on the point is Side Effects, as the point does unlock, and no one's able to touch it in time. This is absolutely huge for Side Effects. You can essentially just turtle up, try to sustain for as long as possible. If you win the fight, great, but if you can just delay time, even better as well. Chubbs will find one in response, but Tech 36, he gets D-Max, so we're essentially looking at a 5-on-4, and HSL without the defense matrix can't really commit to coming in, so this is all free time right now for Side Effects. The Earthshatter comes in. It does not find anything, though, because Sab has put himself in Transcendence first. Side Effects can continue to sustain again. Oh, and right into the face. A10 gets taken down as well as Chubbs, and that might just be the follow-up damage that Side Effects needs. HSL falling apart at the seams, and again, you talk about the fact that Side Effects was able to get the point opened up and in their favor quickly. That's a lot of free percentage coming in the back end of that team fight.
It was still a good Earthshatter regardless. Because Saab was about to get Earthshatter, he had to pull the Transcendence to save his own life from actually getting stunned and eliminated. Probably would have given HSL the turn in that fight. And Side Effects, they hang around the point and they reap what they sow. They end up getting their own return shatter, getting all 3 tanks. Tech 36, you already said, didn't have his mech, so they were unable to sustain anything walking into that fight, just looking to rebuild another one. A10 will have the Graviton Surge. Side Effects, they only have a sound barrier to stop it. It got eaten.
Wow, what a good play from Meta. He saw that one coming a mile away, holds the defense matrix up, and yep, A10 not going to find anything, even though it did show up as to be on the UI. It was the D.Va bomb that was soaked, but it was the Graviton Surge. Don't you fans worry. HSL, they needed that badly to flip, and now all of a sudden they're in borderline last fight territory here, Panda.
I know that voice line all too well from pulse bombs and Graviton Surge getting eaten on my own hands. Yeah, I know that voice line all too well. Not to him having a heck of a game so far, setting up his team for success. A big Graviton Surge to be eaten, setting Side Effects up for a last team fight scenario. They have the Earthshatter from Boger. Got a 3-man last time. All 3 tanks from HSL Esports were knocked on the ground. Tech 36 might have to invest the self-destruct just so HSL get presence on the point alone.
Yeah, that's the only thing they have to possibly even open up this fight, unless he uses a very aggressive sound barrier, which it looks like that will in fact happen. And FD God, he tries to swing around the back side of it, but it's just going to be a speed amp to get onto point. And look at that, they actually put the point for free. You might wonder if Side Effects took a little bit too long, and yeah, there it is, the Earthshatter right in the face of a Transcendence. That's not going to find much value, so now all of a sudden HSL in control of the point, and not much as far as retaking for Side Effects. Frost does have a Graviton Surge. Do you use it here? Looks like the answer is yes, and he finds the entire backline. This is an opportunity for sure, as Frost is able to take down one, and Regina also very low, but it's the self-destruct sequence from Tech finds the entire front line. HSL are gonna flip this and start to get some significant control.
Off of a remake too. Tech 36 pulled his ultimate off of remake. Bentahan was hanging out on the left-hand side on HSL's side of the point, waiting to get the follow damage in the self-destruct. A big flicker on the shield and a turnaround from Chubbs. Keep his team alive. A10's gonna have another Graviton Surge to play into this fight. Side effects have to use all of their ultimates nearly to just sustain on that fight. They have to win one more just to get this point in the map of Helios. They only have Jonah's rally coming around the back. If they can set up Boger for another Earthshatter to walk in until this point, they will claim victory, but A10's already got the Graviton Surge, just laying it down.
Oh, and it's redemption run for him. He says, you're not gonna eat this one. I'll put it right on the corner, and he finds himself a four-way suck in there with the grab, but it's still a Zarya for Zarya trade, so 5-on-5, it comes down to the Reinhardt, who will find the success. Boger, he does have an Earthshatter, and he'll drop it, but again, there's a Transcendence here, though, so yeah, you get the Suns, but there's really zero follow-up. The Sound Barrier is used immediately afterwards, and all of a sudden, HSL, they've got numbers, but they lose their Reinhardt, so all of a sudden, Boger, can you make a play? You're already at 75% to another Earthshatter. Oh, good cave. He actually got stunned out of his Sound Barrier there for a second. Doesn't actually come through. And here we go. All of a sudden, Saab looking to make a pressure go. Side effects will flip, and now we're in overtime. And now for HSL, you just have to touch. You have to get the overtime to proc again, and they're not going to. Oh, that's so unfortunate. Side effects finds a very rare, but obviously well-appreciated map win here in EU Contenders Trials. But Panda, we get to talk again after we get some recap here as far as what that means for HSL and their hopes of possibly moving on into the Contenders scene proper.
Well, it doesn't look good. Let's just put it that way. It doesn't look good, especially when you want to walk in to the last day of Trials with as many map score victories as possible, and then you lose to Side Effects. The Side Effects, keep in mind, you who are actually last in our standings right now, will take their 8th map victory against HSL Esports. HSL Esports were definitely playing very well. This map was actually very close, ladies and gentlemen.
Very close.
But I think what really set the difference, you said it in the middle of the broadcast shift, unless you have a crazy Zenyatta to pick up on all those scraps. Well, Sop just stood up to the plate, and he knocked it out of the park, man. I mean, like, he was able to get so much free damage off onto Tech 36, and then the follow-up damage in the 1v1 against the enemy Zenyatta of HSL. I mean, absolute nutter pulling up on the damage roll there from the support line to get his team the advantage there in the end. Not to mention, we got to go all the way back to the beginning of Lighthouse itself. Legitimately started with Saab retaliating Transcendence to stop himself from getting Earthshattered. Probably would have set the pace differently for HSL to take Lighthouse, but Side Effects, man, it came to play.
Absolutely did. And again, we just got to hit this one more time. If you're not familiar with the EU Contenders Trials, seeing as we are starting to see you guys come back in, and hello, good to see you guys. Right now, there is no playoffs for EU Contenders Trials, so it is all based off of the round robin. So even though HSL, again, is sitting at 2-2, it would take kind of desperate measures for them to even move into the Contenders proper, because you have to be the top 2 teams at the end of the round robin. Every single map matters. So Side Effects, a team that's currently winless, their hopes are essentially 0 as far as getting at Contenders. But again, this is a good showcase. This is the spotlight that you want for these players that were coming either, mostly for Side Effects out of the Open Division more recently than HSL. So I mean, this is, again, every moment matters for you. So I mean, biggest performers so far. I mean, who's been pressed to you and who you want to keep an eye on from Side Effects going into the next map?
Honestly, for Frost. We got to highlight that again, going back to Ruins, man. I mean, we saw 3 headshots within 15 seconds in sequence of one another. Unassisted damage boosted, keep in mind, you just raw headshot. Man, like that itself, you don't really see good Widowmaker player like that, because we're in a patch of 1.32 where tanks are reigning supreme. So to see good Widowmaker play like that and really pick apart the squishy members of HSL Esports was definitely a highlight for me as well. To his Zarya play really stood out on top of that. To have a good Zarya player into your 3-3 matchup to help out Boger on the front line, and he's not finding those Earthshatters by himself. Keep in mind, he's staying composed and kept together like glue. That's what the off tanks in the 3-3 matchup are supposed to do for a standout Reinhardt. They make them look better, and that's exactly what we're seeing out of Frost so far.
And again, Frost, a player that previously was playing for the team 1 point, now obviously affiliated with Side Effects, and again, having a pretty huge performance so far. As we go to Kings Row, traditionally, off the gate, you're going to see a lot of goats, just because, again, Zarya in these tight corridors can farm up so much free charge so quickly. Definitely a big power flex here as HSL will come out on defense, and yeah, that's what we will see. It will be the Ana goats, though. You do see a lot of Ana here because she can be kind of sneaky and hit big biotic grenades. We've seen Eclipse do it a number of times. Hidan trying to channel his inner Prodigy support here as well.
Big flex. Zarya. Nice. HSL Esports, yeah. Pulling out the Ana. Hidan has been a player in this region, played in multiple regions at that. Has a lot of experience playing Ana since the hero got released. No surprise that HSL Esports are going to try to work the same magic that we see a lot of other teams do as well. That Biotic Grenade can be a nuisance to deal with, but we already highlighted Metahan's having a heck of a game, eating Graviton Surges. Gotta look out for that Biotic Grenade. Turn that down. HSL Esports have no burst skills. They have no versatility in their comp.
And for now, Side Effects looking to maneuver around our big Omnic statue right in the middle. Looking to find a way to end at this point, but you can see Tech 36 up top is just finding so much free damage with these miniguns, and FD God has been kind of a nuisance as well, just wall riding around our golden statue and trying to find a couple of missed positions on the boops. Tech 36 trying to boost away. Will be shield bashed for a small second. Chubb's also low. The Biotic Grenade has to be utilized, and he's very, very low. Chubb's in a lot of trouble all of a sudden. A clutch bubble to keep him alive. Can he find the healing needed? It looks like so far the answer being yes, but Side Effects has found a little bit of extra positioning, and the rally is utilized. Can they break forward? Another Biotic Grenade hits just the Brigida this time, and no eliminations yet. No, Chubb's a little bit over aggressive with the channel. And now it just comes down to, Boger will respond, and he finds a handful with an Earth Shatter of his own. Jonah, now with the damage in hand, can he find a way to open things up with some more eliminations? Will they use the Graviton Surge? It doesn't even look like they're going to need to. All of the front line for HSL gets absolutely dissolved. And Side Effects, they'll be taking at least some percentage here at capture point A.
Even though the Earthshatter didn't find any eliminations, Boger really stepped up. Holding resources, especially the Biotic Grenade out of HSL Esports, meant that they could continue to push forward. Side Effects had the resource advantage. Imagine if Hidan actually played the Zenyatta rather than the Ana, having the Transcendence rather than the Nano Boost, would have been able to sustain HSL Esports through that defense, but they didn't even get the Graviton Surge. So now Jonah essentially has this Graviton Surge for free to walk forward. In HSL Esports, they have no defensive ultimates, which is why you see them holding the Archway. They have to take a very aggressive fight here to pull any and all resources out of Side Effects to set up a Streets phase second hold right in front of the capture point, where you see a lot of teams get stalled out. Side Effects, on the other hand, they're taking this poke game really well. Boger already has another Earthshatter. Chubbs needs to be wary of that.
Yeah, a lot of tools for Side Effects to use to break this opening team fight. Just comes down to when, what, and where, and I guess more importantly, who will start this fight up. There
nice
it is.
Grab.
Jonah will find a grab and immediately respond with A10s. Downberry used first for Side Effects. Is there enough to push forward through this? Does not look to be so. Chubbs will be stunned though and discorded. He will catch an Orb of Harmony and a clutch sound barrier from FD God. He's been so good with it. A10 will take down Boger as well, and HSL Esports looks like they're going to sustain this Archway defense.
That self-destruct for the zoning purposes, of course, not finding any eliminations besides the space itself, put Boger on the side of HSL Esports for the cart. When the rest of Side Effects all started breaking towards the point in the hotel area, Boger didn't have the support necessary. Self-destruct found a lot of value, even though it was combined with A10's Graviton Surge. Side Effects now have the resource advantage once again. They can't let HSL Esports set themselves up for another round of ultimates. Side Effects need to walk in, use their ultimates as quick as possible and decisively, so that way they can control the cart.
Yeah, and the longer that they take, the more charge that A10's going to find on his Graviton Surge as he gets blowing up near 100% charge on that particle cannon. Chubbs trying to position around the payload. He's looking for an Earth Shatter as well. If someone gets a little bit over aggressive, or if he can catch a favorable boop from his friendly FD God, and how about just jump right on in. He finds Meta as well as Jonah, but again, there's no follow-up on the damage. A10 will now chop out his Graviton Surge, but there's no really damage follow-up there. Chubbs will find one, but it costs him his life, and that's a free shatter. As soon as Chubbs is down, Boger is able to put down a handful. We're seeing particle effects everywhere, but at the end of the day, it's Side Effects that seem to be taking this fight. A10 falls, and this payload will get on the move again as soon as they take care of Tech in the mech.
Because Chubbs went down so early, Side Effects were more than welcome to use as many of their explosive ultimates as possible. Pun intended. The self-destruct, though, didn't find any eliminations again, was still enough to garner HSL Esports to scatter like ants that just lost their hill. And Side Effects just had to clean up on all of that. The charge efficiency from Jonah, you see on your screen glowing up like a darn Christmas tree. Gonna be able to work towards his next Graviton Surge, actually lapping A10. That's a pretty nice note to take on your resume if you're Jonah. HSL Esports, though, they're walking in with a decent amount of ultimates, that being the Earthshatter from Chubbs, but they get retaliated.
You love to see that out of Boger. Just sees an opportunity and says, we're going, fam. Not even going to wait for a speed boost. You can react with that later, and that's exactly what happens. And HSL, they will fall apart here in stage 2. It did take a lot of time off the clock, but still able to finish stage 2 with just under 2 minutes. You're going to have plenty of time to reassess how you're going to assess break into this last point, rather.
And now HSL Esports, they're wearing the wrong shoes for the defense. They're wearing attacker shoes. At that, they're trying to play for their ultimate so that way they can walk in and use them to get control of the card. But now side effects are just cycling through the ultimates as need be, and resources at that to keep themselves in control of the payload. That's why you're seeing HSL Esports again using the speed boost, trying to take a fight as early as possible. They need to use their ultimates and not get retaliated. Boger is 10% shy to his next Earth Shatter.
Yeah, that's huge for side effects. Now it is there, 5 out of 6 for side effects, 4 out of 6 ultimates for HSL. But A10, he's going to get that up pretty quickly. Jonah to start this fight off. It will be just a grab bomb combo, and it will find Chubb. So now all of a sudden, Boger says, all right, sounds good. I'll go ahead and drop my Earth Shatter. Nothing to worry about. No shields there, and a nice little particle grenade there from Jonah to finish off the very pesky FD God. And side effects, they've got their win condition right in front of them.
Boger is landing so many fire strikes at that too. It's pulling a lot of resources out early from HSL Esports, which is why he's getting so much charge over to his Earth Shatter, setting up wonderfully by his by Betahan and Jonah respectively. But Boger's really having a standout game. HSL Esports are being too hesitant because they never have shield advantage nor resource management, because Boger is having a heck of a game here on King's Row. Disengage coming out from side effects so that way they can enter this fight how they want to. They probably understand that A10 has this Graviton Surge. Saab is just hanging on to this strand.
Saab will use that, as you call it, immediately. The shields will break from Boger off the self-destruct with the sound barrier from the top ropes coming out for Kayav. So now FD God forced to respond with one of their own. We're still looking at a 6-on-6 fight. Of course, Proximal respawn favoring that of HSL. Boger will try to drop an Earth Shatter. He won't find as much success as he was hoping for off of that, and it looks like HSL, they will be able to come back in this fight and finally find a defensive win. Nice little boop to keep Cave around. We got a Lucio on Lucio action. Oh, respect the 1v1.
Respect the 1v1. Come on, guys. It was something beautiful. A battle of speed and music itself, and you had to ruin it, didn't you, A10? You had to ruin it. Unbelievable.
Comes in as graceful as a bull in a china shop, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, the HSL Esports are going to be able to hold off here, but I think that FD Guy, he's just looking for too many boosts. He's trying to go for that Red Lucio playstyle, trying to get a lot of damage off, using the amp, not proactive enough, having to use it for his own safety, and side effects are really cleaning up on that. Earth Shatter coming through is only going to find one. The boot from FD God this time to knock Reinhardt up, it isn't enough.
And Jonas is eaten, so now all of a sudden what was kind of a moot Graviton reporting it says, I see the self-destruct come out. The Graviton needs to get a little bit more value than that, obviously, and all of a sudden side effects, they're able to turn this one around, even though Tech does soak up what was A10's Graviton Surge, or pretty much Jonah's Graviton Surge. It just comes down to support ultimates now, and we will see a very minimal ultimate fight. It's right inside this tight corridor. The cage match indeed. Jonah near full charge. He's going to clean all of this up. A10 wondering what he can do from here. The answer, my friend, is not very much, as there will be one more grab dropped on top of the point. Side effects are going to push this all the way through to complete the map.
And after Jonah's Graviton Surge got eaten, Jonah didn't really care. Jonah continued to find a whole bunch of damage and had another Graviton Surge before A10 did as well. The Graviton Surge got eaten, and it almost seemed like HSL Esports were trying to hit the gas, trying to put the pedal all the way down to the floor to hit the darn pavement, and then they just misfired. Not following up on any targets. They had their Reinhardt stuck in a cage match over top of the mini pack. It's not exactly where you want to be. When the Reinhardt's low, you almost want to go back and keep the front line sustained. Well, just a minor miss of positioning there from Chubbs. Side effects able to clean up on top of it because of their cool, calm, and collective resource management. Let's not forget that Jonah is a hit scan proficient as well. What comes along with playing a lot of Widowmaker, Ashe, Tracer, on ladder, on stream, all the way into these matches comes cooldown management. That's why you're seeing those passive bubbles onto Boger in a very opportune time, because they understand on when that cooldown is supposed to be used. Not necessarily supposed to be used, when it is most optimal to be used. Side effects are firing off on all cylinders. 17 seconds isn't the biggest time bank in the world, but time bank to have is time bank at least. Because even if HSL Esports capture all 3 points, no overtime will be granted to them. Only if the side effects to capture one tick and take the map. So going for the ever long-lasting win condition at the end of the map, HSL Esports are going to have to try their best to get as much time and create as much of a snowball as possible probably won't be rolling out here on the pharmacy composition. If they do, it'll be really interesting to see because side effects are just going to come out with the defensive Zenyatta 3-3, the tried and true love of Monk composition that we know. And Saba's been doing well too on the Zenyatta. No reason to swap off to the Ana, no reason to swap over to a solo support composition either because he's landing a lot of good volleys, having the Transcendence up in time, and not getting pressured enough. So that way they always have an answer to A10's Graviton Surge. HSL Esports need to work a way around it as they go for the mirror matches side to side. Zen Goats going up to the high ground.
I'm glad you mentioned the success that Saba's found because, again, we saw Ana pulling out, or HSL pulling out the Ana, rather, defensively for them. And, again, that Biotech and 8 can be good, but, again, you talk about the limitations when you don't have the defensive support ultimates there on the back end. So Saba will be holding down the Zenyatta this time around, and we will be getting a little bit of a point pressure. And, oh, goodness, A10 somehow able to find Kov. So, all of a sudden, a lot of gas pedal here as the Lucio is no longer there, and it comes down to Saba. Can you shawarma with this Transcendence in time? Not going to make a difference. The entire front line is getting absolutely melted by A10, who's sitting at exactly full 100% charge throughout most of that fight, and capture at 8 will come through very rapidly.
Point A is really good for Lucios like FD God, always going towards the back line where the phone booth is. You see it there on the top right-hand side of your screen, and booping all of the front line side effects. Actually found Kov. Got shield bashed by Sardis and blown up by A10. Gonna have a Graviton Surge for his work in that last fight. But going back to Saab, again, even though in the last fight, still tit for tat against Hidan, who won the fight for HSL, already has a Transcendence. So A10 gonna have to be careful when they use this Graviton Surge. Probably not expecting Saab to have this Transcendence, but Graviton Surge already coming down from A10.
Saab will, as soon as he gets the charge, go into that Transcendence you mentioned. Charging all the way through is Boger. Where are you going, Fred? The Alderworth Hotel is not taking any vacancies at the moment as he went right all the way through the lobby. And that's an easy elimination for HSL to turn and focus. And they won't have to use any more ultimates here. Without that Reinhardt being here, it's going to be a pretty easy cleanup for HSL. At least you would anticipate so. Yeah, the target prioritization is good enough. And they do finish off the Pilot Diva. And that's a free push here for HSL. And they've got a lot of resources still. 5 ultimates up.
Only winning off of the Graviton Surge, like you said, and side effects, they only use the Transcendence, so they're still building up to their ult economy. They're trying to go for that big old 5-pack of ultimates themselves. When walking in on this fight, probably going to see an aggressive sound barrier just to walk in, if not hold on to it for Text 36 self-destruct. But Jonah's going to have this Graviton Surge. The burst damage is there for side effects if Metahan can land the self-destruct in the middle of it. It mostly comes down to Boger landing the pin onto Chubbs to take away the shield.
We'll see if that can happen. Chubbs obviously does have an Earth Shatter as well as we get on board with him. Will he start this fight off? This corner can be very difficult as far as Earth Shatters go. You think you have an opening and all of a sudden you don't. Now all of a sudden Jonah will start things off with the Graviton Surge, self-destruct combo in the back line, and the charge was there, but he was bubbled and it was able to sustain through the self-destruct. Now responding with one of their own, won't find anything, and now the Earth Shatters get used on top of each other. It's a 3-man stun for both teams, but Saab again able to hit the Transcendence in the nick of time. A10, can you put down this Graviton Surge? The answer, yes. Can you melt through these big frontliners though? Meta very low, will be demech, but the numbers already that side in favor of side effects. And it looks like with the damage from Jonah, they will be able to continue to sustain this defense.
Yeah, and continuing on wonderfully here. This is where we see a lot of teams get stalled out. It's so hard for the attacking team that spawn over in the original capture point of A, King's Row, to walk all the way back down and not take an immense amount of shield pressure and damage. You can see Jonah marching forward, noticing there are no supports. He will find another Graviton Surge and the split spawn for Chubbs. Now HSL Esports are really in a deficit, not only for stagger spawns, but for ult economy at that. Just marching forward, they can hold here. I hope shit just because they have the ultimates to do so. The rally coming through from Frost, the sustainability, the shielding is going to be over top of the armor for Jonah, who does have that Graviton Surge well earned off of the spawn camp there for a hot second. HSL Esports are now going to have to walk forward and find any and out. That is a yeet of a grab there, A10. Where is the follow-ups?
Yeah, looking like Steph Curry out here throwing it from behind the arc, but we'll actually find a handful. Sports reference forehead, and now we're going forward with side effects, trying to get themselves in there. FD God will fall, so will the support of Stardust. So all of a sudden, opportunity starts to brew. A really clutch sound barrier there as well for side effects, just to continue to put the pressure on HSL. They gave it a go, but they will be turned aside once again.
Yeah, and again, marching forward, even in the Graviton Surge, taking way too much damage as they're walking down the corridor. In between the saloon and the bookstore at King's Row, it's not a safe place to be, even in the 3-3 composition, regardless of mirroring it to your own self. Jonah, again, understands his team has to sustain. He has the map advantage. 60% to win the Graviton Surge and 100% charge all the time. That is a good Zarya player to have on your team. Side effects are winning off of this cool, calm, and collective play. Yet again, I cannot say it enough. HSL Esports, they need to sustain themselves. Save your defense matrix in your passive bubble so that way you can get card control. You can take a look at your screen. Chubb's shield is already broken.
God, I love this play from Side Effects. Hit the rally, hit the speed amp, get on in, but wow, really good pressure here from HSL as they just push them into the Everly and Sons area in this back area here in this little bit of a this alley, I guess you could call it. And that's going to be enough for HSL. After pushing them away, we'll be able to win out the full fight, and that should surely be the second stage, no problem. Really good coordination from HSL.
That's the HSL Esports we know and love. The coordinated play, recognizing that one member was out of position, and then everybody on HSL Esports became Winston. They all ended up diving that same target from the speed boost of FD God and obliterated Jonah, just winning the fight off of that one pick, and all his side effects just crumbled. No sustain from the passive bubble. Boger was soon to follow. HSL Esports now setting themselves up. They were soon to have 5 ultimates backing by Sardi's rally. A10 looking for this Graviton Surge. Saab will have a Transcendence readily available. The mirror grab, double black holes.
A little bit of a synchronized swim here as they both use everything at the same time, but it's actually going to be Hidan who uses the Transcendence first. And they actually kind of soft reset with that. The re-engage now as the payload turns the corner. Can Chubbs find himself an Earth Shatter? He's been okay with it so far. Needs to find a better opportunity though, and he has actually separated out. Boger will be shield bashed away from using his Earth Shatter, so now all of a sudden, if they can find the focus, Chubbs could potentially lay down this Earth Shatter and make this a little bit more doable. Down barriers, but Chubbs very low, will be taken down. Side effects, an opportunity to move through. They don't have any ultimates to use, but it doesn't seem to make too much of a difference as they take down that Reinhardt. All of a sudden, now that Frost has the rally, they can get a little bit more aggressive, but you still have to be a little bit careful. You don't have anything to use to peel back, and it looks like it's not going to make a difference. JSSL will retreat back to spawn.
And what's most important, too, is that that shield bash that ended up taking the Earth Shatter away was not as important as Metahan just hanging out above top left side of your screen where Jonah's standing right now, continuously landing in damage. Chubbs is looking for that Earth Shatter. Did not take the time to look up. That's what makes Spider-Man most effective, you know, ladies and gentlemen. Nobody looks up, and that's exactly what Metahan did.
Everybody gets one, Panda. Everybody gets one. FD God will find Boger once again, and that will set up what should have been a free shatter for Chubbs. And looks like A10's damage is at least good enough to take down Frost. Metahan will be demeched and taken down as well. So numbers for HSL, but the respawns should be good enough to allow them to contest her one more time.
One more recontest here, but A10's hanging off on the side. He's looking for the Graviton Surge. This Graviton Surge is actually going to stop everybody from even touching the point. There's another door.
But he didn't finish out Boger. Boger is 1 HP, and Cave is able to save him with the sound barrier. A10, a little bit of a missed opportunity there, so we're still with a 6-on-6. Saab will be taken down, though. HSL with a little bit of an advantage in the support line, but A10 also very low himself. Fortunately, Boger does fall for that of HSL. Looks like Chubbs will just keep on holding W while also holding down left mouse. And Hidan, now it's your time, my friend, with no damage behind you. It's all about you hitting the shots, and he's absolutely performing with it. Discord's onto every target. One more shatter will do, and it looks like HSL, they will finish the map as well with time to spare.
And that's what's so dangerous about Zenyatta on this last point. You have to go for the stall of your side effects, so you never take the time to deal with the Zenyatta that has an Orb of Harmony on a frontline member, Orb of Destruction just tearing through your front line and just laying in the Orbs of Destruction. It's just a lot of damage that goes uncontested in those final moments. And nobody of side effects able to go and deal with it respectively because they had to stay on the cart to try to stall off as much time as possible. They will end up stalling down to having only 1 second on the board for HSL Esports. They did have the time advantage. The side effects will only get bumped up to 1 minute. 1 second is not the biggest difference in the world, ladies and gentlemen. It may be just a single scout that comes through, but it might as well just be one long team fight, just how both these teams have been playing on King's Row. A lot of GOATS matchups. These team fights last for a very long time. Lots of ultimates probably get obtained in that early fight. HSL Esports will continue on just that. If FD God continues to be uncontested in booping the front line of side effects forward, HSL Esports will find success. Side effects, on the other hand, they need to continue to punish these out-of-position targets such as Chubbs and FD God getting a little bit too big for their britches and pick up on that slack. Side effects have a lot of good utility inside of their players alone, with Frost having that Zarya or that Brigitte to play to set up Jonah, get a lot of free Graviton Surge charge, but Saab on the Zenyatta has really been the biggest standout for me. Side effects will be loading out here on a Widowmaker just for some quick scouting, maybe a quick pick, give them the early advantage, and they're going to actually just roll out on the tried and true Zenyatta comp. Yeah, don't want to get you baited. I thought
they literally had the Mercy out for a second. I was like, okay, big question marks, but not going to happen. Cage match part 2. Chubbs is going in on it. Not going to happen for very long as Boger had him trapped for a small second, but A10 said, enough of that, boys. Clean, fair fights here, you see. And now it's going to be down to, can you find the damage charge? Only 50% for A10. And again, you take a look at these Zarya's, that is the pivotal flex when it comes down to these fights in these early stages of King's Row. 20 seconds left. It really will come down to, can you break this point and ride this payload for as long as possible for side effects? Again, they're up one map. We don't get to say that very often, as they have struggled here a little bit early on and past the midpoints of the EU Contenders trials. Jonah, though, will have the first one of the Graviton Surge. We'll find 3, but again, there's really no damage following up behind it, and FD got us able to hit a very last-second sound barrier, and now Chubb's able to find himself an Urge Hitter for a couple, but gets booped away, pushed back, still 6-on-6 fight. A10 will still get everybody back into the Graviton Surge. All of a sudden, can you find the damage to follow up? The self-destruct sequence is the backline, but it will be HSL Esports able to clean up the front line, plus a couple of supports. Looks like they're going to be holding on to this overtime defense without a problem. As soon as they take care of meta, there goes the mech, there goes the pilot. HSL will find the full hold.
Sub, you had the earliest Transcendence I have ever seen, and Jonah just follows suit with a very fast Graviton Surge, pulled up a sound barrier, pulled out the resources from HSL Esports, but then the Transcendence came out way too early, even before Chubbs brought down the Shatter. A10 was inching towards the Graviton Surge. You know A10 will be inching towards that Graviton Surge, how long that fight was lasting. There was a decent amount of damage that went down into Side Effects' front line. And Saab just pulled out the Trance a little bit too early, whether he was too low or he was trying to save a member of his team. Probably happened too fast. I'm not going to lie, these players have probably a lot quicker reaction time than I do. But at the end, the Trance was too early, and Side Effects were unable to sustain through HSL's tank ultimates that inevitably came through. A10 and Chubbs just setting up this defense for success, and now one tick sets a difference for Side Effects, or for HSL Esports rather, to tie up the series 1-1. Side Effects, they do have a hope here. The fight did last for a decent amount of time when HSL Esports were attacking the first time. So if Side Effects pick up from what they have lost from in that opening engagement of HSL's first attack, surely they must learn from it here, and that's just not aggressing too close to Mandata statue. You want to keep your shield managed properly to disengage back to the hotel. Boger can't over-aggress here. Same for Jonah. They all need to stay very close together. It is the one hole in their GOAT's composition that they are missing. In the middle of a team fight, one GOAT strays off too far from the pack, and they get picked off. HSL Esports going for the mirror matchup. One tick will give them the victory here into the half.
Chubbs, though, already rather low. I think he was expecting a projected barrier a little bit sooner than he got it from A10, but regardless, this is a different rotation than we've seen. They will take high ground, try to flip around the backside, and see if they can sweep on in from the back. Obviously, pretty well telegraphed, so Side Effects will position a little bit more in the corner underneath the archway as they do kind of posture at one each other, maybe even making a couple of silly faces as if to taunt, but now it just comes down to who can, again, find that damage first. Discord orbs are good for Haddad as he tries to continue to keep it on that Reinhardt. A10 at full charge already. He can find this Graviton Surge very quickly, but Chubbs falls. This is disaster, but Boger responded with, however, is this happening? Tech also taking on the mech, so all of a sudden, we're left with essentially a 5-on-4 as the pilot demon just going to spam that Bunny Blaster to her heart's content, but it comes down to who can sustain themselves on the point first. A10, close, very close, and you talked about Saab letting go of an early Transcendence. That might be a little early again, because A10, he's got Chubbs back with them, and they almost have a Graviton Surge. There it is, and they step off the points!
It's just so much frontline pressure that you just can't even walk in. I mean, that is, you might as well be a shark with laser beams attached to your head. A10 just putting in all that frontline pressure is an awesome power stroke for you, going back to the movie references shit. But, you know, you really hate to see it. It's not even a Charlie Niner, ladies and gentlemen. What that legitimately was coordinated tank play. Early Transcendence from Saab, you noted its shift, and it just wasn't enough. They didn't resource manage themselves properly to sustain into the mid-fight, and then just left the entire point just clean and open. It was only 33% that HSL needed, and
fight never really broke out. Yeah,
there was no fight.
Really, truly, yeah, it was just all right. Well, I guess
it was like an elementary school like squabble during recess. They're just shouting at each other, just like randomly picking up tuts of grass. They never actually threw anything at each other. They were just like, I'm gonna, and
don't. I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you, Panda. I'm not touching you.
No touching.
Essentially what happens. But okay, so now we're drawn up 1-1. Again, for HSL, you'd love to clean up this set at a 3-1 scoreline just to, give yourself a chance to potentially do some work. I mean, they do have to play up against Novus and I believe Young and Beautiful throughout the rest of this weekend, which is no easy task whatsoever because both those teams are in the top 3 at the moment. So for HSL, you have to win out the rest of your weekend and do it at pretty significant map loss differentials. And with going 1-1 here against Side Effects, a team that really isn't in contest for one of those top 2 spots after the round robin for Contenders. I mean, that's the goal. That's kind of what we're framing up as the narrative for this match. But for Side Effects, you know, you've thrown a lot of resiliency out, maybe a couple mistakes here or there, especially as you noted, of course, those Transcenders being just a touch early and a couple of the support outputs being layered. But, you know, it's been a very back-and-back battle so far. Yeah.
No lie. And Side Effects really showcasing why they are the team that they are. I mean, you have 3 past World Cup players on this team. You have Metahan that has played in every season of Contenders for Europe and in a World Cup appearance himself. I mean, these are composed, competitive players. You can't just sleep on them. HSL Esports are literally losing to fundamentals alone. Not checking the high ground, not checking the corners, even ult tracking themselves. They have a lot more opportunities left wide open that they're just not engaging on. They're being too hesitant, and in certain moments of time too, not to contradict myself, sometimes they're too hesitant and sometimes they're aggressing when openings aren't even there, and then they lose in the resource management, whether it's shield management or cooldowns alone. HSL Esports needs to learn from these fundamental mistakes and go forward in hopes that they can learn from it.
Absolutely. And of course, we will be